Camille Harris hated the idea of tonight. The soft glow from her bedside lamp cast shadows across her apartment walls, but nothing could soften the knot tightening in her chest. On her bed lay a sleek black dress. Elegant. Simple. Too hopeful. She stared at it like it had personally offended her. "Absolutely not," she whispered. Her coworker had been relentless all week. "He's incredible, Camille. Educated in Seoul. Runs a massive company. Polished. Refined. You need this." Need this? Camille had just spent 8 months rebuilding herself after a man who promised forever and delivered betrayal. She wasn't fragile anymore, but she wasn't ready either. Another man with status? Another polished smile hiding secrets? No. Her phone buzzed. Aria Thompson. Best friend. Sister by choice. Fierce. Magnetic. Unapologetically bold. Camille answered. "Tell me you're dressed," Aria said immediately. "I'm not going." Silence. Then laughter. "You are not backing out of a private 5-star dinner reservation." Camille sat up. "It's not just dinner. It's expectations. I can't do charming strangers tonight." Aria softened. "Then why did you say yes?" Camille hesitated. Because part of her was tired of being alone. Because part of her missed feeling chosen. Because part of her wanted to believe good men still existed. But she wouldn't admit that. Instead, a dangerous idea formed. "Go for me." Aria paused. "What?" "Just go. It's a private dining suite at the Grand Meridian. Candlelight. Fancy chef. Probably overpriced water. You'll love it." Aria sat up wherever she was. Camille could feel it through the phone. "You want me to pretend to be you?" "No. Just say there was a mix-up. Or don't. Just have dinner. If he's unbearable, leave. If he's decent, at least someone enjoys the reservation." Aria exhaled slowly. "You're serious?" Camille's voice lowered. "I just can't sit across from another man pretending to be perfect." Aria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Send me the details." Camille blinked. "You'll go?" "For the food," Aria replied. "And because you owe me." Camille laughed for the first time all day. But after she hung up, the laughter faded. Because she didn't know something. The man waiting inside that private dining suite wasn't just some polished executive her coworker admired. He had flown in from Seoul that morning. The entire restaurant had been discreetly cleared for his privacy. Security was positioned out of sight. And the chef had prepared a custom menu approved by him personally. His name was Lee Jae-hyun, youngest CEO of one of South Korea's most powerful tech conglomerates. A billionaire who valued efficiency, precision, and respect. He disliked blind dates. He despised surprises. And, tonight, he was expecting Camille. Instead, Aria was walking into destiny. And Camille? She had no idea she had just redirected her own fate. The Grand Meridian Hotel was silent in a way only expensive places could be. Soft marble floors. Dim golden chandeliers. Staff who moved like whispers. Aria adjusted the sleek, deep blue dress hugging her frame as she stepped through the revolving doors. She wasn't nervous. She didn't do nervous. But she was curious. Very curious. A hostess approached instantly. "Ms. Camille?" Aria smiled politely. "Actually, there's been a small change." But before she could finish, the hostess bowed slightly. "He is already waiting." "He." "Not your date. Not Mr. Kim. Just he." "Interesting." Aria followed the hostess down a quiet corridor toward a set of double doors. 2 men in dark suits stood nearby, subtle, alert. "Security?" Her eyebrow lifted slightly. "Oh, Camille," she muttered under her breath. "What did you almost walk into?" The doors opened, and the atmosphere changed. The private dining suite was breathtaking. Soft candlelight flickered against cream-colored walls. A long polished table set for 2. Fresh white orchids in crystal vases. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. No rooftop wind. No crowd. Just intimacy. And at the head of the table, he stood. Lee Jae-hyun. Tall. Immaculate black suit tailored perfectly to his frame. His posture straight, composed, commanding without effort. His eyes lifted and landed on her. There was a flicker there. Recognition that something was off. She wasn't what he expected. Arya didn't look shy. She didn't look nervous. She didn't look like a woman trying to impress a billionaire. She looked like a woman assessing the room. And him. Slowly, he walked forward. Ms. Camille. His voice was smooth, controlled, deep enough to quiet a room. Arya didn't flinch. She stepped closer. About that, she said calmly. I'm Arya. Silence. Not awkward. Measured. His jaw tightened slightly. I was informed I would be meeting Camille. You were, she replied. She couldn't make it. His eyes sharpened. She couldn't make it, he repeated. No anger. But the temperature dropped a degree. Arya folded her arms lightly, unbothered. Look, I didn't mean to waste your time. The reservation was already made. The food's probably paid for. I figured one of us should enjoy it. For the first time, something unexpected happened. He almost smiled. Almost. Most people fumbled around him. Most people explained too much. She explained nothing. Do you often attend events that are not yours? He asked. Only when destiny clearly misreads the calendar. That did it. A small, controlled exhale left him, dangerously close to laughter. He gestured toward the table. Sit. It wasn't a command, but it wasn't a request either. Arya walked to her seat and sat gracefully, crossing her legs. So, she said, picking up the menu, are you always this serious, or did I just interrupt your world domination plans? He watched her carefully. I do not enjoy surprises. Good thing I do. The first course was served, truffle-infused appetizer plated like art. Neither touched it immediately. They studied each other instead. He noticed confidence without arrogance, poise without performance, eyes that held steady contact, no intimidation. She noticed power without loudness, control without cruelty. A man used to being obeyed, not challenged. Why didn't she come? He asked finally. Arya tilted her head. Why did you agree to this? A pause. Fair. My mother insisted, he said. She grinned. There it is. His brow lifted slightly. There what is? The truth. For the first time since entering the room, his shoulders relaxed by a fraction. Most women would have been dazzled by the setting, the luxury, the implication of wealth. Arya seemed impressed by none of it. She tasted the food, nodded approvingly. Okay, she admitted. You have excellent taste. In cuisine, he asked. In decision-making, she replied. You chose the right chef. A subtle shift happened in that moment. He stopped evaluating her as a replacement and started seeing her as an equal. Outside the suite, security remained still. Inside, something unexpected was unfolding. This wasn't the quiet, agreeable blind date he anticipated. This was friction, spark, challenge. And as the night deepened, Lee Jae-hyun, the man who structured billion-dollar mergers without emotion, felt something entirely unstructured. Interest. Real interest. And Arya? She walked in expecting a free meal. She did not expect the intensity in his gaze when he said, quietly, I am glad Camille didn't come. The candles flickered, and neither of them realized this dinner was no longer an accident. It was the beginning. Dinner was supposed to be polite, brief, forgettable, but nothing about this felt forgettable. The second course arrived, plated with quiet precision. Neither of them noticed, because now the conversation had changed. It was no longer playful. It was personal. Lee Jae-hyun leaned back slightly in his chair, studying Arya with a gaze that wasn't casual anymore. You're not surprised, he said. By what? She asked calmly. Most people react when they realize this dinner required the entire floor to be cleared. Arya glanced toward the closed double doors. I noticed. And I assumed you value privacy. He held her gaze. You assume correctly. She took a sip of wine. I also assume you're used to people being impressed. Silence. It wasn't offensive. It was honest. I am, he replied. And does it get boring? His lips curved slightly, the smallest hint of something real. Yes. There it was. Not the CEO. Not the billionaire. The man. Arya rested her elbow lightly on the table. Then maybe tonight is refreshing. For you, he asked. For both of us. He watched her carefully, as if recalculating something internal. You're not curious what I do? He asked. You manage a large company, she replied lightly. Very vague. Very mysterious. And that doesn't bother you? She shook her head. If a man needs his resume to be interesting, he probably isn't. That hit. He couldn't remember the last time someone spoke to him like that. No strategy. No angle. Just truth. You are direct, he observed. I don't like wasting time. His eyes darkened slightly. Neither do I. The air shifted again. Thicker now. Charged. Outside, the city glowed against the night sky. Inside, something more intimate was forming. He broke the quiet first. Why did Camille really not come? Arya hesitated for the first time. It was small, but he noticed. She's healing, Arya said finally. Last relationship left scars. He absorbed that. And you, he asked. The question caught her off guard. What about me? Do you avoid scars? She held his gaze. No. I just refuse to collect new ones. Something flickered in his expression. Understanding. He nodded slowly. I respect that. For the first time, there was no distance between them, not socially, not emotionally. Just two people who understood pressure in different forms. He was raised to lead, to conquer, to never show weakness. She was raised to survive, to stand tall, to never be underestimated. Two worlds, same armor. The final course was served, but neither rushed to leave. This wasn't obligation anymore. It was choice. When the staff discreetly cleared the table, Lee Jae-hyun stood. Walk with me, he said. Not an order, an invitation. They stepped out of the private suite and into a quiet indoor garden wing of the hotel. Marble pathways, glass ceiling, soft lantern lighting. No press. No audience. Just them. Arya folded her arms loosely against the cool night air drifting through the ventilation system. So, she said lightly, are you always this intense? Only when something interests me. She stopped walking. He stopped too. And what interests you? She asked quietly. He didn't look away. You. The word wasn't flirtation. It was certainty. Her heartbeat betrayed her calm exterior. But she didn't show it. You don't even know me, she replied. I know you are not intimidated. He stepped closer. Not invading, just enough to shift the space between them. I know you are loyal. You came tonight because your friend couldn't. His voice lowered slightly. And I know you are not performing. Her breath slowed. Most men were loud with interest. He was quiet with it. Dangerously quiet. Careful, she warned softly. You don't like surprises. And yet, he said, tonight may be the best one I've had in years. The moment stretched. Neither moved. Neither spoke. If someone had walked past, they would have assumed this was a couple deep into something serious. But this was only night one. Finally, Arya stepped back, regaining composure. You should probably know, she said, I don't date men who live in different time zones. A subtle challenge. He didn't blink. Then perhaps, he replied calmly, I will have to adjust my schedule. Her lips curved despite herself. That sounds expensive. I can afford it. The statement wasn't about money. It was about intention. When he walked her to the exit, the car waiting wasn't flashy, but it was unmistakably luxury. Before she stepped inside, she turned to him. You never answered something. What is that? Are you always this controlled? He held her gaze for a long moment. No. Good, she said softly. Because I don't date robots. The door closed. The car pulled away. And for the first time in a long time, Lee Jae-hyun stood still after someone left. Watching. Thinking. Feeling. And inside that car, Arya stared out the window, pulse still uneven. She went to dinner as a favor. She left with something far more dangerous. Curiosity. Real attraction. And a sense that she had just stepped into a world much bigger than she imagined. Neither of them knew. The next morning would change everything. Morning came too fast. Camille was halfway through her first cup of coffee when her phone started vibrating nonstop on the kitchen counter. Group chat notifications. Missed calls. News alerts. She frowned. What now? She reached for the remote and turned on the television for background noise. That's when she froze. The headline flashed across the screen. Korean tech billionaire Lee Jae-hyun expands U.S. operations with multi-billion-dollar acquisition. Camille barely processed the words, because the screen shifted. And there he was, the man Arya described. Tall, controlled, immaculate in a dark tailored suit, standing at a press conference podium, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. The caption beneath his face read, CEO of JH Global Technologies, net worth, $3.8 billion. Camille's mug slipped from her hand. Coffee spilled across the counter. She didn't notice. No. Her heart started pounding. No, no, no. She grabbed her phone and immediately called Arya. It rang twice. 3 times. Camille, it's too early. Turn on the news. Pause. What? Just turn it on. Camille could hear shuffling, then the distant sound of a television switching channels. Silence. Long silence. That's him, Arya whispered. Camille paced the kitchen. You went on a blind date. With a billionaire. A CEO. Arya, he owns half the buildings in this city. Arya didn't respond right away. Camille's panic grew. Why didn't he tell you? That's insane. That's not normal. Finally, Arya spoke, and her voice was calm. He tried. Camille stopped pacing. What? He said he managed a large company. I didn't ask for numbers. Camille ran a hand through her hair. This is exactly why I didn't go. Men like that come with complications. Security, press, power, control. Arya's voice softened slightly. He didn't act like that. Camille hesitated. What do you mean? He didn't lead with money. He didn't list achievements. He didn't try to impress me. Camille looked back at the screen. Lee Jae-hyun was answering questions in fluent English, voice smooth and composed. A reporter asked about future merger strategies. Another asked about his rumored engagement prospects. He handled each question like a man used to being watched, to being measured, to never slipping. He doesn't look like someone who does blind dates, Camille muttered. He doesn't, Arya replied quietly. And that's when it hit Camille. A cold realization. He wasn't looking for a random woman. He wasn't casually exploring. Men like that were intentional, careful, strategic, which meant he had chosen to sit through that dinner. He had chosen to stay when he realized Arya wasn't Camille. Camille's stomach tightened. Are you going to see him again? Another pause. I don't know. But even through the phone, Camille could hear something different in her best friend's voice. Not dazzled, not starstruck, thoughtful, careful, interested. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a notification. It was a message from an unknown number. Camille's breath caught. She opened it. Good morning. I believe there was a misunderstanding last night. However, I am not disappointed. Jae-hyun. Her eyes widened. He texted her. Not Arya. Her. Camille immediately called Arya again. He just messaged me. What did he say? Camille read it aloud. Silence. Heavy silence. Arya inhaled slowly. That's dangerous. Camille swallowed. Why would he text me? You're the one he had dinner with. On the other side of the city, Arya stared at her own phone, because hers had just buzzed too. Another unknown number. She opened it. I prefer honesty. If you are interested in dinner again, this time without substitutions, let me know. Lee Jae-hyun. Her pulse quickened. 2 messages. 2 different tones. One controlled. One direct. Camille's voice shook slightly. Arya, what if I mess this up? Arya stared at his name on her screen. The powerful CEO. The billionaire. The man who said he was glad Camille didn't come. You didn't, Arya said softly. But she wasn't entirely sure. Because this was no longer about a skipped date. It was about intention. And men like Lee Jae-hyun did nothing without intention. Back on the television, he stepped away from the podium. Camera flashes erupted. His face remained unreadable. But for a brief second, just a second, his expression softened. As if something else was on his mind. Something not listed in the acquisition report. And somewhere across the city, 2 best friends were realizing the same thing. This was no longer a blind date story. It was becoming a choice. And choices change everything. Arya didn't respond immediately. She stared at his message for nearly an hour. not because she was intimidated, but because she understood something now. Men like Lee Jae-hyun did not chase casually. They pursued intentionally. And intention meant risk. Across town, Camille paced her apartment like a woman who had accidentally opened a door to a world far bigger than her comfort zone. Maybe I should text him back, Camille muttered. Why? Arya asked calmly over speakerphone. You didn't want to go. But he messaged me first. Arya leaned against her kitchen counter. And he invited me to dinner again. Silence. There it was. The crossroads. Camille exhaled slowly. He chose you. Arya didn't answer. Because that word, chose, carried weight. Finally, she typed back. No substitutions. No secrets. Public place. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Agreed. Another message followed. Tomorrow. 7 p.m. Hannock Garden Restaurant. She blinked. Hannock Garden wasn't just expensive. It was exclusive. Discreet. The kind of place where deals were made quietly. And now she was walking into it fully aware of who he was. The next night, security was visible this time. Not overwhelming. Just enough to remind everyone who he was. Lee Jae-hyun stood when she entered. No surprise in his expression. Just quiet approval. You came, he said. You were honest, she replied. They sat. No private suite this time. Soft lantern lighting. Traditional Korean architecture. Low instrumental music in the background. People whispered, some recognizing him. He ignored them completely. His focus was on her. I owe you clarity, he began. Yes, she said evenly. I did not tell you about my company because I wanted to see who you were without influence. She studied him. And what did you conclude? That you are not easily influenced. A faint smile touched her lips. That true. The server poured tea. The atmosphere was calmer than the first dinner, but more dangerous. Because now there was awareness. I don't date power, Arya said gently. I date people. And I do not date fascination, he replied. I date respect. Their eyes locked. Equal. Measured. You texted Camille, she added. I did. Why? He didn't hesitate. To confirm her absence was intentional. Arya absorbed that. You thought she was testing you? I consider possibilities. She leaned back slightly. And now? I am certain. Certain of what? He held her gaze steadily. That I am not interested in Camille. The words landed solidly. Not dismissive. Just clear. And you're interested in me? She asked quietly. Yes. No hesitation. No performance. Just fact. Her heartbeat betrayed her again, but her face remained composed. You live in Seoul, she reminded him. I travel frequently. You're constantly in the public eye. I control my exposure. You're powerful. His voice lowered slightly. I am disciplined. That distinction mattered. The food arrived, but neither rushed. This dinner felt like negotiation. Not of contracts. Of vulnerability. Why me? She asked finally. It wasn't insecurity. It was clarity. He thought for a moment before answering. You did not ask what I could give you. Her breathing slowed. You challenged my composure. A faint, rare smile. And you did not flinch when you realized who I was. She held his gaze. I've seen powerful men before. Yes, he said quietly. But not one like me. The confidence in his tone wasn't arrogance. It was awareness. And for the first time that night, Arya felt it. The weight of his world. The scale of his life. Dating him would not be simple. It would not be quiet. But it also wouldn't be shallow. Let's say I say yes, she said slowly. What happens then? His eyes softened, just slightly. Then I pursue you properly. Not own. Not control. Pursue. And if I say no? His voice remained steady. Then I respect you. The honesty disarmed her more than charm ever could. She studied him for a long moment, then said quietly, I don't want to be impressed. Good, he replied, because I want to be understood. That did it. Something inside her shifted, not because he was a billionaire, not because of the setting, but because he wasn't trying to overwhelm her. He was choosing her carefully and giving her space to choose back. She reached for her tea. Okay, she said softly. His eyes sharpened slightly. Okay, we try. Not fairy tale. Not forever. Just try. The smallest exhale left his chest, relief disguised as composure. I do not fail at things I commit to, he said quietly. She raised an eyebrow. Relationships aren't mergers, Mr. CEO. A hint of amusement flickered in his eyes. I am aware. Outside the restaurant, cameras flashed faintly. Word was already spreading. Lee Jae-hyun was seen dining with a woman no one recognized. And somewhere in her apartment, Camille sat on the couch staring at her phone, waiting, wondering if she had just skipped more than a dinner, if she had skipped destiny. Back inside Hanok Garden, Lee Jae-hyun stood and held out his hand. Walk with me. This time, Arya didn't hesitate before taking it. And that single, deliberate choice changed everything. The first photo surfaced at 8:12 a.m. Blurry, taken through the window of Hanok Garden, but clear enough. Lee Jae-hyun and Arya, seated close, leaning in. By 9 a.m. it was on business blogs. By noon it was on international gossip sites. By evening, her Instagram DMs were flooded. Arya stared at her phone, stunned. Strangers analyzing her face, zooming into her dress, speculating. Who is she? New fiancé? American model? Gold digger? Her jaw tightened. Gold digger. She tossed her phone onto the couch. Across the city, Camille was already at Arya's apartment with snacks and emotional support. This is insane, Camille said, scrolling through headlines. They're acting like you committed a crime. Arya leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. I knew he was visible. I didn't realize I would be dissected. Camille hesitated. Do you regret it? Arya paused. That was the real question. Because last night wasn't fantasy. It was calm, intentional, grounded. She didn't feel used. She didn't feel dazzled. She felt chosen. No, Arya said finally. Before Camille could respond, Arya's phone rang. Unknown number. But she knew. She answered. Yes. I apologize. Lee Jae-hyun's voice came steady through the line. For what? She asked calmly. For underestimating the speed of media response. She almost smiled. You can't control everything, Mr. CEO. A slight pause. No, he admitted, but I can shield what matters. The word shield made something in her tense. I don't need protection, she said. I know, he replied immediately, but I will not allow disrespect. There it was. Steel beneath composure. She exhaled slowly. It comes with your world, doesn't it? Yes. And you're used to it. Yes. I'm not. Silence. Not awkward. Heavy. I will adjust, he said finally. That surprised her. You? Yes. His tone lowered slightly. I told you, if I commit to something, I do not fail. This wasn't about ego. It was about resolve. Camille watched Arya carefully from across the room. She could see it happening. Arya wasn't overwhelmed. She was thinking, calculating risk. Because dating a billionaire CEO wasn't just romantic dinners and private gardens. It was exposure, scrutiny, pressure. And then the real test came. That evening, a major Korean business network aired a segment. Lee Jae-hyun's mother had been asked about the rumors. Her response was polite, elegant, controlled. My son understands the weight of our family name. I trust he will make appropriate choices. Appropriate. The word echoed. Arya watched the clip 3 times. It wasn't cruel, but it wasn't welcoming either. Different culture. Different expectations. Different world. Her phone buzzed again. A message from him. Dinner at my residence. No press. No public space. Just conversation. Camille's eyes widened. His residence? Arya nodded slowly. This wasn't a restaurant anymore. This was stepping fully into his world. Are you going? Camille asked quietly. Arya stared at the message. If she said yes, things became real. If she said no, things ended safely. No heartbreak. No cultural tension. No public pressure. Just a story that almost happened. Her phone buzzed again. You deserve to see where I stand. That line hit differently. Not you should. Not come over. You deserve. Arya grabbed her coat. Camille blinked. That's your decision? Arya gave her a small, steady smile. I don't run from pressure. 30 minutes later, a sleek car pulled up outside the building. No logos. No dramatic convoy. Just quiet luxury. When she stepped inside his residence, she finally understood the scale. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist design. Art pieces that likely cost more than houses. But he wasn't in a suit this time. No press-ready image. Just dark slacks and a simple black shirt. He looked human. He stepped closer. Thank you for coming. She met his gaze. Your mother doesn't sound thrilled. He didn't deflect. She is protective of legacy. And I don't fit the legacy? His eyes held hers steadily. You do not fit expectation. A beat. And does that bother you? She asked.
No.
Immediate.
Certain.
It challenges tradition. She crossed her arms lightly. And you? His voice softened, just enough. I am not interested in tradition if it costs me authenticity. That wasn't rebellion. That was conviction. He stepped closer, not crowding, just closing distance. I knew what this would bring, he said quietly. Attention.
Scrutiny.
Opinions. His gaze didn't waver. But I am still here. Her pulse slowed, because he wasn't asking her to endure it alone. He was standing in it, with her. Are you sure? She asked softly. Yes. He didn't smile. He didn't charm. He simply answered. And in that moment, Arya realized something important. The world might question her place beside him. His family might hesitate. The media might speculate. But he wasn't uncertain. And sometimes, certainty is louder than approval. She stepped closer. Okay, she said quietly. Then we face it. Together. And for the first time since the headlines broke, Lee Jae-hyun reached for her hand. Not for cameras. Not for image. But for grounding. Outside, the city buzzed with speculation. Inside, something stronger was forming. Not fantasy. Not infatuation. Commitment under pressure. And somewhere across town, Camille stared out her window, realizing that skipping one dinner had changed all their lives. 3 months. That was all it took. 3 months of headlines. 3 months of speculation. 3 months of being watched. And yet, they never broke. If anything, they grew stronger. Arya learned how to walk into rooms filled with investors and diplomats without shrinking. Lee Jae-hyun learned how to laugh in public without looking over his shoulder. They adjusted. Together. But pressure doesn't disappear. It waits. The gala. The ballroom glittered under cascading crystal chandeliers. Global executives. Political figures.
Media.
It was the official U.S. expansion celebration of JH Global Technologies. This was Legacy Night. And for the first time since the rumors began, Arya was attending publicly by his side. Not hidden. Not accidental. Intentional. Cameras flashed the moment she stepped onto the red carpet. Whispers followed. That's her. She's still here. She doesn't look intimidated. She wasn't. She wore a deep midnight blue gown. Elegant, powerful, unapologetic. Lee Jae-hyun stepped out beside her, calm as ever. But when their hands brushed, he intertwined their fingers. Deliberate. Flashbulbs exploded. That single gesture was louder than any press release. Inside the ballroom, he moved through the room with polished precision, greeting investors, shaking hands, accepting congratulations. And every time someone addressed him, his hand remained in hers. Not possessive, not performative, present. At one point, a senior executive leaned toward him and murmured something quietly in Korean. Arya didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone.
Doubt.
Assessment. Lee Jae-hyun responded without hesitation. Firm. Measured. Final. The executive nodded and stepped away. Arya looked up at him. What was that? He met her eyes calmly. Nothing that concerns you. She tilted her head. It clearly does. His voice lowered. He questioned whether public association was wise. Her expression didn't change. And your answer? His gaze softened, just slightly. I do not make decisions based on fear. Her heart skipped. Before she could respond, the lights dimmed. It was time. The speech. He walked onto the stage as applause filled the room. Cameras live streaming. Media broadcasting globally. He delivered his speech with precision. Expansion numbers. Vision. Future strategy. Applause followed every key point. Then,
He paused.
the shift was subtle, but intentional. There is one more thing, he said calmly. The room quieted. He stepped away from the podium, down the stage steps, toward her. A ripple of confusion moved through the crowd. Aria's heart started pounding. He stopped in front of her.
Not as a CEO.
Not as a billionaire. Just a man. You once told me you do not date power, he said softly, but the microphone carried every word. The entire ballroom stilled. You date people. Her breathing slowed.
He continued.
You also told me relationships are not mergers. A faint smile touched her lips. And you were correct. He reached into his jacket. The room collectively inhaled. I built my life on strategy, precision, control. He lowered to one knee. Gasps echoed. But loving you has required something greater. His voice softened. No longer corporate, no longer composed for investors. Choice. Silence swallowed the room. I choose you in the pressure. I choose you in the scrutiny. I choose you without conditions. He opened the ring box. It wasn't overly dramatic, just elegant, powerful, like him. I do not want a partner who fits expectation. His eyes locked onto hers. I want the woman who walked into my life uninvited and refused to be impressed. Her eyes shimmered. So Aria Thompson, the world waited. Will you marry me? For a second, just a second, the noise of the world disappeared. No cameras, no executives, no legacy, just the memory of a private dinner, a skipped date, a moment that wasn't planned. And Camille, standing near the back of the ballroom, tears in her eyes, because she understood something now. That date was never hers. This story was never meant for her. It was always Aria's. Aria looked down at him, at the most powerful man in the room, waiting, not demanding, waiting. And she smiled. Yes. The ballroom erupted. Applause. Cameras flashing wildly. Investors stunned. Executives whispering. But none of it mattered, because as he stood and slid the ring onto her finger, he didn't look at the crowd. He looked at her. And for the first time since this began, there was no pressure, no doubt, no question, only certainty. Across the room, Camille wiped a tear and whispered to herself, sometimes the date you skip is the destiny you redirect. And just like that, a blind date became a legacy rewrite, not because of money, not because of power, but because two people chose each other, despite the world watching.